more practice on writing equations from tables. We're looking at the group practice for quadratics. And I wrote the quadratic formula at the top of my page, this vertex form, because I like to always have that in front of me as I'm working on my problem, because I know that I'm going to be looking for these key parts, the a value and the vertex hk. So step one, find the a value from the table, and you can refer to your previous video for how do we find that a value. So the a value is going to be our second difference divided by 2, which means we need to find our change in x and change in y, and then our second difference. This will also confirm that we are indeed looking at a quadratic function. So we can see that our change in x for each of these, we're increasing by 1, because if you follow on a number line, you're going to the right for each one of those. From -4 to 5, you're here at -4, and you're going all the way to 5. If you count those units, that's going to be an increase of 9. From 5 to 8 is increasing by 3. And then from 8 to 5, I'm now going to the left. That's decreasing by 3. And then from 5 all the way back to the left here at -4 is decreasing by 9. So we can see very clearly here that it is not linear, because our change in x is constant, our change in y is not constant. And we can see that it goes from decreasing or increasing and decreasing. So we have that change here. And so that means we need to do the second difference to confirm that it's quadratic. And if that second difference is constant, then we know that it is. And so if we look again on our number line, from 9 to 3, I'm going to the left. From 9 to 3, I'm going to the left 6 units. So that's a decrease or subtract 6. From 3 to -3 is also to the left, and I'm decreasing by 6 again. And from -3 to -9, I'm going to the left 6 units, so I'm decreasing by 6. So that is constant. This negative difference, what do you think that tells us about the a value? So we're going to look at our second difference divided by 2. That's -6 divided by 2. We're getting -3. This tells us that our a value is -3, which also tells us that our parabola opens down. Our quadratic function opens down. So you'll notice that when you get a second difference, that happens to be negative. So finding the turning point, so circle that in your table of values. You can see here that when I go from a positive change to a negative change, that's the difference. And you can even see in your table the values, that symmetry. When you graph that, you see those repeated y values here. So I wrote my vertex on the line. Our turning point is our vertex. And we're going to use that a value and turning point to write our equation. So we have y equals the a value, which is -3, times the quantity x minus my h value, which is right here. So it's subtracting a -5. That is squared to make it quadratic, and then plus my k value, which is 8. You will often see this written. You don't usually see subtracting a negative. Subtracting a negative is the same thing as adding. So subtracting is the same thing as adding the opposite. So that's why it is plus +5, quantity squared plus 8. And now we're going to look at the next question. Step 1, what is the a value from your table? Start that by finding your change of y and change in x and second difference. We see clearly here that our change in y is not constant, even though our change in x is, and we're always looking for this to be +1 for these scenarios. And so we need to look at the second difference. And we can see here that our second difference is increasing by 2, and use that to find the a value from your table. So I take my second difference, I divide it by 2, and I got 1. So my a value is 1 on this. So this is going to be kind of the standard shape that we've done based on the parent function. And now I need to circle my turning point from the table. Please do that. You can see that where I go from negative change to positive change, that turning point is right here, that vertex. So my HK, or my vertex, is 6, negative 2. And now I'm going to use that to write the equation. And you can see that I always like to rewrite my general form and then use that to plug in my values. My a value is 1. Then I have x minus my h value, which is 6, quantity squared, plus k, which is negative 2. And then I rewrite that to be in a little bit smoother math language. We don't always put the 1 out in front, so y equals the quantity x minus 6 squared. And then instead of adding a negative, that's the same thing as subtracting 2. So this is how you're going to see the equation most often, even though mathematically this is correct above as well.